Hi, it's John from North Star Nursery, Garden and Home, your coastal gardener. For some of you in the valley, this may not be a very topical video, but for here on the coast, it's very, very topical. I've been getting a lot of people coming in talking about talking about fuchsia mites. They don't know what they are, but they're fuchsia mites. Now, let's just clarify something. Insects happen. It's kind of like dog poop. So it just happens. They travel in either wings, on people, on animals. It just happens. So let's just acknowledge that happens, and this is how you deal with some of those issues. For the most part, fuchsias don't usually get too bothered by aphids, but for some reason fuchsia mite is a definite challenge that shows up, and it shows up quite a bit here on the coast. Part of that problem is that it's actually carried on the beak of hummingbirds and on bees. And so they go and collect nectar, etc., and they're sharing that disease, mites and stuff in between plants. So mites are microscopic, pinhead literally size bugs that if you were to look on the microscope would be ugly looking. So the other thing that happens a lot, especially here, and we're starting to see this weather pattern kind of sussing out, which is that we have moisture and then we have heat, and then we have moisture and we have heat. What that ends up showing like is Entomosporium leaf spot. Entomosporium leaf spot is a fungal situation, and it is just perpetuated by that situation. Moisture, warm, moisture, warm, moisture, warm. As you look at this plant, the older growth is the one that is spotted and mottled. So what I would do if this were my plant would be to just strip off the damaged leaves. Do not compost them, throw them in the garbage. You do not want to perpetuate that fungal situation into a compost pile, because you're just going to share it with other plants later on. The other thing that I do when it comes to fuchsia mites, how I handle it, again, everybody has a different pasta sauce recipe, but how I handle it here at the nursery, and this would be on the coast pretty much everywhere, is I strip them completely. No leaves, no flowers, no nada. So what I do is I will literally take my finger and just go down the stem and strip off all of the leaves. In the process of doing that, I'll sometimes go ahead and do a little clip just so that it can bush out where I want it to bush out later on. I also try to eliminate any of the wood that's pointing inwards, because we always want to keep that structure open so that we have less disease and less insect issues. As you're doing this, you want to make sure that you take all of the material that you're pulling off out of the soil. Because again, if it's Entomosporium leaf spot and you're then watering and there's material in here that has these spots on it, it'll splash up when you water and reinfect the plant. Okay? So again, we're going to strip this clean. I know this seems severe, but let me tell you, these guys come back gangbusters. They're very, very forgiving. I think it's because our environment is just so perfect for fuchsias. Okay, so that is our stripped down plant. No material on the soil. At this point, if we had our fuchsia mites as a problem, and that's why we're stripping this, I would then come in and spray with either neem oil or horticultural oil. You want to make sure you get into all the crevices of the fuchsia itself. and you want to spray once a week for 3 weeks. You're doing that as a precautionary measure. Probably the first spray would pretty much take care of it because there's not a lot of foliage involved. But you want to make sure you really get it under control, because when those things start to leaf out and you start to see those gnarled leaves or gnarled flowers, that's a repeat performance of the fuchsia mite. So spray thoroughly once a week for 3 weeks. Again, when you're spraying plants or fertilizing plants, you want to make sure that they are watered 24 hours beforehand. If you spray a dry plant, it's going to burn. It's not going to be happy with you. And if you actually had leaves on here and it was dry and you sprayed it, you wouldn't have leaves afterwards because they'd probably drop off. So that is the fuchsia mite and kind of cleaning up. After I do this, I also come in, and I'm going to show you on this one because it's a hanging basket. This one just was looking really rough. A lot of our growers water with a inline fertilizer system. So when they're watering, they're actually fertilizing as they water. We, of course, don't have that system here because I don't know how expensive that would be. I think it would be very. So what we do is we fertilize plants as we manage them throughout the time at the nursery. This fuchsia came in early in the season and never really got the benefit of all the fertilizer it could. So what I'm going to do is strip it and then start fertilizing it. What I've chosen to use today is Sure Start because I love it. And I'm using a nail to just make a pilot hole in the soil. And then I'm going to take a spoonful of sugar. Makes the fuchsias bloom in each of the holes. Now you can just go ahead and scratch it on the surface if you want. I like getting them down into the root zone. So get that fertilizer down in the root zone. Again, this is organic, so it's going to be really hard for you to burn with this. And then when you're done, you're going to water it really thoroughly and then put it back in its location to grow on. That is the fertilizer 101. This was a fuchsia that we stripped and cut back probably about 6 weeks ago. And it's looking really good. So this is what, you'll see there are quite a few fuchsias that we have here at the nursery growing. And I manage them all the same way. And for the most part, they always look pretty good. If I run into problems, I just repeat performance that, and it works very well for me. FYI, this is Angel's Earrings. This one is a really tried and true fuchsia. It's supposed to be mite resistant, but not always the case. I've had some mites on them before. I think it's hard to find a mite resistant plant, honestly. This guy can get quite large, 3 or 4 feet tall, and as wide if you let it. Remember, it's all up to you. If you want this to stay small, just pinch off those top nodes, which probably seems sacrilegious because there's blooms coming. But if we pinch off all of these little growth nodes, these branches will now start side shooting, and that will fill this little baby up. You just want to kind of keep an eye on that center area, making sure it's very well ventilated. This is another little fuchsia that we got in recently. This is called Paula Jane. It hasn't popped open yet. It kind of has, I'm not sure if you can get in on this. It has kind of an orangey tone to the petals. So I'm kind of excited about this. So that's Paula Jane. This fuchsia we are using a lot. If you come in and look at, so we just started replanting the demonstration garden. It's a small one just in front of the ramp where the old hydrangea used to be. And we've done the garden that's just past our deck rail there on the north side of the house, building, whatever. And we're using this a lot because I'm loving the color variation. Works really well with rust tones. It's just It's very pretty. Honestly, I'm not really in love with the flower. So at my house, I've been known to actually pull the flowers off because they can be a little garish in comparison to the foliage. I grow this strictly for the foliage. It is a low kind of creeper, so it's almost like a ground cover. That's how we're using it here. You could use it in a hanging basket, of course, and then it would just cascade over beautifully. But that color variation is incredible. This, sorry, I didn't tell you what it is. It's Fuchsia autumnale. So it's our autumn fuchsia. Another really great fuchsia that we don't see very often is Fuchsia timifolia, which we do normally see, but this is Fuchsia timifolia variegata. So it has the little green and white leaves, the most precious little pink flowers. Trying to find, is there one that's open this side? Anyways, they're just cute as a button. This is a really great plant if you wanted to do something with a fairy garden, because I think the flowers look very fairy-esque. So we do have this also in the green variety. So this is Fuchsia timifolia variegata. This one is an upright fuchsia. Now there are upright fuchsias and there's cascading fuchsias. This is truly an upright. It has these clusters of these brilliant orange flowers that are tubular. This is Gartenmeister. This was the one that kind of started a lot of different hybrids that are upright. I think there's one called Fanfare that it actually was the parentage of. Really pretty flowers. Of course, the hummingbirds love them. But this will never cascade. It'll get 2 feet by 2 feet roughly. Might get a little taller, especially here on the coast. But a great, great fuchsia for those looking for something upright. Here's another little beauty. There's a whole series called Ballerina, and this is Ballerina Piqueux. I'm probably pronouncing that right. I'm sure somebody will correct me. Anyways, really sweet little guy. Shrubby, probably about 18 inches max by 18 inches, a little bit more upright, not really a cascader. So in a hanging basket, you might want to put something like lobelia around it to kind of fill out those sides. This is another fuchsia I really love. I love fuchsias with different color foliage. This has got a great kind of limey green look to it. And in the shade, you'll have even more limey green and less green. This would be okay in the sun on the coast, probably up to about the 2-mile marker. After that, it might get a little pissed off at you. I tend to notice that yellow foliaged items don't want to be in full sun as much. They do have a tendency to burn. So just keep that in mind. So this is Thumbelina Gem. And this little guy gets, not saying, I want to say it's like 2 to 3 feet given the opportunity. Again, pruning these guys is not a problem. So don't be afraid to clean them up, strip them, and get them ready for the season ahead. I sometimes do a major fuchsia cleanup in the fall around September. In the beginning of September, and then what happens is you'll have everything leaf out and it'll look good. And then come springtime, when they're actually ready to start blooming, they do it much faster because you have that new growth already started. It's already starting to grow the flower nodes. It just kind of halts during the cold temperatures. So if you want things to be ahead of schedule for spring, consider the September cleanup. The other thing I'll do sometimes if I didn't get to it in September is that I'll start doing it in March. So going through and kind of cleaning up everything, cutting it back, and if there's any problems, spraying, and then of course fertilizing. The other thing I wanted to show you is that this is a very common problem. Not sure if you can get into this leaf and see the white flecking. So this is like just, it's actually just pollen. But the funny thing is, so this fuchsia flower, when it starts to drop its pollen, the pollen's white. Customers often come in thinking that this is a problem. This is not a problem, it's just pollen. So it'll brush off if you want to, or you can hose it off. That's fine. But just be aware that if you're seeing something on a leaf, look above the leaf and see what's going on above the leaf before you panic. Because sometimes it's something as simple as pollen. It can be something as simple as a bird dropping. You never know. So don't panic unless you need to is kind of the lesson there. As far as fertilizing, we talked about the Sure Start. That's definitely a great go-to. The other one that's in my pantry basics is the Maxi. If it were me, what I would do is use this probably every 2 weeks on a fuchsia to really keep them going through the season. And the other one, if you wanted to really focus on bloom, you could use the Maxi Bloom Fertilizer. And again, every 2 weeks. Right now it calls, I think, for 2 tablespoons to a big watering can. And if you wanted to do it half strength, you could do 1 tablespoon every 2 weeks. The other thing to consider is if you have a hanging basket, when it's windy like it's been, you want to really make sure you're watching out for those hanging baskets. They really, really lose a lot of moisture in those winds, and so the plant can then suffer and decline, and then you're not enjoying the fuchsia that you thought you bought. All right, I kind of think that's it. I hope you guys are having a great one, and we will look forward to seeing you at the nursery.